Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Today I'm joined by the lovely Tess Palma-Martinez, who is a sound healer, meditation teacher and intuitive live from California. Hi,
Hi, Fenn. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited to speak to you about your whole journey and I can't wait for people to hear it as well. Um, so I would love to know, were you intuitive as a child? What was your spiritual journey, or was there some kind of awakening?
I was definitely intuitive as a child. I was very sensitive as a child. And like my first memories of having these gifts, it doesn't
Mhm,
evoke a calm or angelic type of feeling. It definitely was very scary. I would often be battling with different entities and feeling kind of that they would like cross boundaries with me,
mhm,
that they would come into my space. And I, as a small child, I didn't really know what they were, why they were there, what to do about it. And I grew up in a family that didn't really know either. So
mhm.
I learned very early on not to talk about it because when I did, they would tell me that I was lying or that I was making up stories.
Yeah.
And as a young child, you want to feel accepted and loved. And I knew from a very young age that liars are not accepted and loved. And so I did everything in my power to push those things away, to suppress that. And that created a lot of turmoil and inner angst, and definitely kind of affected my self-worth. And
Mhm.
I'm just making that connection as I said that right now, because it is a huge part of who I am,
Yeah.
but I was really disconnected from that and I felt shame about it and had to hide it.
Mm.
So it didn't really come back into my life. I mean, I always was entities would like touch me or come into my
Yeah.
dream space or do kind of psychic attack things forever. Like that
Mhm.
didn't stop, but just my connection with it grew a bigger and bigger distance.
Yeah.
And then I would say in my early 20s, I really started to become interested in nature and the moon. And my friends would always call
Mm.
me their witchy friend.
Yes,
And I
I
never
can
really
relate to that.
yeah, I never really identified with the witch term.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I have an easier relationship with that word, but I just was like, oh, I mean, it's just the moon. It's like right there. It's not, that doesn't make me a witch. And
Yeah.
so I still kind of had that battle of like people labeling me and putting me in this category of um, something to not be taken so seriously. At least that
Mhm.
was my perception at that time.
Yeah.
And then when I was 24, I had a huge rock bottom in my life. I had graduated college, I had moved, I couldn't find work that was fulfilling. I ended up moving back home with my mom, and I just
Mhm.
felt like such defeat being 24. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be an adult, and why can't I make this work? And I ended up meeting this woman who was a yoga teacher, and she offered me a place to take her yoga class or her yoga teacher training. It was a 6 month, like very intensive yoga teacher training in exchange for cooking for everybody when we would meet. And because I didn't have any money at the time, that's how I
Amazing.
bartered. It was so generous and really nice of her. And I would say that was my first spiritual reawakening.
And
um,
was you cooking vegan food at that point?
I was cooking vegan food at that
Yeah.
point, yes. Um, I was vegan at that point.
Yeah.
I was vegan for 8 years around that time. And just being in a community, we were all women, there were about 12 of us, and learning about the history of yoga, the history of the Bhagavad Gita, reading a sacred text like that, learning Sanskrit, learning about the chakra system.
Mhm.
It was all the same things, but being talked about in a different way and
Yeah.
being talked about in a way that felt supportive and nurturing. And I was like, oh, this is safe. It's
Mhm.
safe to talk about it in this way. If I tell people in my life that I'm going to yoga, it's okay. That's okay. If I'm meditating, that's okay. But if I tell them that I'm speaking with my angels, that's still not okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like learning and calibrating how to incorporate this into my life and still be
Yeah.
seen as normal. Um, and then as my life progressed and I went on many twists and turns, and I used to own a plant store, and then I've been working as a chef for many
Yeah.
years, and I now live in Los Angeles, and I work, my main like daytime job is I work for private celebrities,
Hmm.
and I'm cooking. I focus on dietary restrictions. So I'm
Yeah.
no longer vegan, and but I know how to cook and prepare delicious food for that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and so when I moved to California, it's just a very spiritual place. And I
Wow.
think the whole world looks at California in two ways. It's either Hollywood, Botox, plastic surgery, money, or beach, wellness, spirituality, all the woo-woo things.
Yeah.
And I really connected with that woo-woo energy.
Hmm.
Went through crazy physical issues. I ended up on January 3rd of 2022. I woke up in the middle of the night and had to be rushed to the emergency room and then
Oh my
go into
goodness.
emergency surgery because I had an ovarian cyst that I wasn't aware of that ruptured. And
Ouch.
if you've never experienced that, I hope that you don't. The ER doctor said that it's more painful than childbirth.
Oh
Um,
my.
it was insane. And that ended up being what I'm now, that created what I'm now in, and
Yeah.
really stepping into my power. And so when that happened, I lost all of my clients because they just found another chef. I
Hmm.
had no income. I was very sick, just dealing with that and then dealing with the surgery and the recovery. And I needed to heal myself.
Hmm.
I saw a singing bowl, and it just hit me in this way where I felt that I like woke up and
Yeah.
remembered. It was like, oh, that. And
Yes.
I drove 2 hours to Laguna Beach to this like beautiful space and bought my first two singing bowls. And
Amazing.
I was there for 5 hours. I was talking with the owner. She's been doing it for about 15 years. And she was just like, who are you? You just walk in here, you've never seen a singing bowl before, and you play better than I do. And I've been doing it
Wow.
for 15 years. Like, this must be a past life thing
Yeah.
coming through for you. And I just like, it just, everything gelled with it inside
Wow.
of me.
So it just
And
clicked into place.
it clicked in exactly. So I was then at home healing, recovering, playing these bowls for myself, and they healed me. I went back and I had no more cysts. The doctor was actually shocked that it had happened that fast. It was like
Wow.
how, because they had that one rupture, then I had the emergency surgery to take out a grapefruit sized cyst.
Yeah.
And then they said that both of my ovaries were still peppered with other cysts. And then when
Hmm.
I went back in, completely clean, totally gone.
This was just from doing the sound bowls. Was you putting any intentions out there when you were doing them,
Yes.
or?
Yes. And so as I was working with the sound bowls, that I think activated or reactivated all of these powers within me. And I started having a really strong connection with my angelic team,
Hmm.
as well as my ancestors started to come to me and come through as writing, where I
Yeah.
would just get this feeling like I needed to write. And then it would be my grandmother from Brazil and telling me, like, you need to eat more cherries and stop eating this and
Hmm.
do this. And so I would really take that into account and working with my angels and just asking them to
Yeah.
guide me to my purpose, guide me to health. And I could feel the bowls finding its resonant harmony within my body. That frequency was finding its stability and its
Hmm.
health. And I would really imagine kind of all of my veins regrowing and
Yeah.
sending this like electric current of healing through my body. And then from there, I started working with clients and teaching classes at different studios.
Hmm.
And I now do readings and I do sound bath and then I teach meditation as well. And I have some mentorship clients. And it's really been a beautiful awakening journey.
Absolutely. It sounds amazing and fascinating. So, as well with those singing bowls, it's using that our visualization skills. And I mean, I know how we can heal ourselves, so I know anything is possible, but it's fantastic to hear you say that so that other people get, to hear that as well. But there's many things we can do where we can heal ourselves. And it sounds like you found your niche, you know, and not everyone, I have friends that say to me, I just don't know what I want to do, and that makes me sad because I'm so passionate about this, and like you're passionate about what you do, and I feel bad for people that just don't know what they want to do, but when you find it, everything just comes into alignment. And did you also find as well, because I ask a lot of people this because it's quite common, when you start to follow your authentic path and you start to remember, you start to lose a lot of people around you that
Yes.
are not in alignment, and then you gain obviously more people that are in alignment.
Yes, 100%. And I actually created a group called the Spiritual Girls Club,
I saw
and
that.
we meet here in Los Angeles. It's a free club.
Yeah.
And because I kept hearing that, the number one thing was I feel lonely, or I'm the only one that is interested in spirituality, or like my friend, the other day I had a spiritual girls club meeting, and the woman at the end, she came over and she was like, "Thank you so much. I realized this is the first time that I openly shared about it, and the people
Hmm.
in the room didn't make fun of me." She was like, "I never realized that when I talk to my friends or family, they actually make jabs or they make fun of
Yeah.
me or they roll their eyes on, oh, that's such a Vicky thing."
Hmm.
And it made me sad.
Mm.
So I intentionally created a community where we can come together and learn and share, and yeah.
That's lovely. A nice safe space where people can just be their authentic self.
Yes.
I mean, more and more people are opening up now, but still there's so many people that, if you like, they're still, this side of the veil and completely normal, and they've no idea. Obviously I've been spiritual all my life, and even my own brother doesn't believe in what I do. So it's crazy, but it's fantastic that you've created that space. So is that a face-to-face meetup that you do?
It is, yeah. So I've really, in the last, since September, I would
Hmm.
say, the end of September, I've really shifted 95% of my business to only in person. I am an in-person kind of person,
Yeah.
and have tried so many times from when I used to have my plant store in 2016. Like,
Yes.
I've just tried to have that online business and that
Hmm.
online connection, and it's very draining for me. I know, like, I can see it from outside of myself that I just don't really understand how to do
Yeah.
it. It feels like a game or a tool that I just
Yeah.
can't figure out. And that adds to the exhaustion. And
Hmm.
so I just decided, when I look at where I meet people in my life, where I meet my clients, when opportunities come in, it's
Yeah.
always, this is my manifestation pattern. I've taken a lot of time to figure this out.
Hmm.
Very passive. So I cannot initiate whatsoever.
Yeah.
These opportunities come to me out of seemingly nowhere. So I having that online presence, it's too much pushing and trying to
Yeah.
convince people to work with me, whereas I would rather lead a sound bath and have somebody come up and say, do you have a membership, or can you mentor me, or and that's how I meet my clients.
Oh, it's
Mhm.
amazing. Absolutely amazing. What inspires you?
Ooh, what an open question. What inspires me? Divinity, and it even brings up emotion. There's so much out there, and when we
Hmm.
can allow ourselves to connect to that energy and that frequency, it can feel overwhelming, but it can
Yeah.
also just completely fill you. It's very easy to disconnect from that,
Hmm.
and sometimes I will go a stretch of time and then I'll be like, "Oh, angels, I'm so sorry. I've been like, so I know I can feel that you're always with me, but it's about
Yeah.
me being with you, and
Absolutely.
that's my choice." So what inspires me to have and maintain that connection is really
Hmm.
found in the simplicity of just looking at the tree that's outside and the blue
Yeah.
sky, the way that the sunlight is coming in and hitting my face. There's
Mm.
very tiny details like that.
And it is those tiny things that people don't realize how fascinating they are. We just take them for granted. The trees and the grass, the plants, everything. I mean, we're all energy and we're all completely connected and we're all the same thing. But yeah, I mean, we live in it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful when we learn to see through our authentic eyes. What is your mission? Where would you like to go with this? Or have you hit your plateau? Or what else do you want to do?
I have not hit my plateau
I know we
at
never
all.
have we? I knew you'd say no.
My mission, when I bought my first bowl, it just came to me that I want whoever sees my bowl
Hmm.
or bowls or multiple, whether it's in a picture or in person, that I want it to spark that feeling of remembering that it did for me. And so
Yeah.
that's just like the base intention that I go forward with.
Hmm.
And from that point, then I am here to support and help people connect with that in a deeper way. I
Hmm.
know that the spiritual world, just from personal experience, can be an actual very messy and toxic place if you look
Okay.
to the wrong people or in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
Because we are energetic and a lot of people come into this space feeling vulnerable. Unfortunately, just energies, there are the energies that prey on that and will end up sucking it out of you.
Hmm.
So I am like kind of like wanting to be like a champion or a
Yeah.
protector of people's energy and angelic
Yeah.
unity, just to hold that very vulnerable piece of you and
Absolutely.
help you like nurture it.
Yeah, and I think protection is very, very important. So I always teach. I'm actually teaching a mediumship workshop tomorrow, and there's going to be a lot of protection going on. So, what different services do you offer if people wanted to connect with you?
Yeah, so I do virtual. If you're doing virtual, because I don't know if your community is mostly
Well,
where
they're
you
going to be
operate.
my community will be global, but obviously some of them will be virtual. So I was thinking, oh, does she do any virtual things?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, how about in person? You can come to any of my classes that I do in Los Angeles. I have the Spiritual Girls Club, um, and I also do any of the following services in person as well, but then
Hmm.
virtually I do readings. So I
Yeah.
work with different oracle decks, and I have 6 different decks, and I pull a card from each deck. And
Hmm.
that I really enjoy just how the story weaves itself together from different decks. That that can be done virtually or in person. I do my mentorship, and that is a 3-month container where I help you
Hmm.
connect with your intuition and your authenticity. I don't do virtual sound baths just because it doesn't
No.
translate. It's very hard, and like Zoom will just
Yes.
crash. It can't handle the frequency,
Yeah,
which
I've tried
is
it. It's much better in
um,
person.
yes, it's much better in person. Um, and shortly, it's in my more immediate goal is in New York and upstate New York to open a small retreat center.
Amazing.
So this summer I'll be taking the first action step for that. And long-term goal is to host retreats and have it be a space that people travel to from all over the world.
Absolutely. And that's an amazing goal, because so many people need to go and feed their soul. And, we're a better place to do that, because you can't do that, at the gym, or, there's certain aspects you can do, but somewhere like a retreat is just the whole mind, body, spirit. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, do you have any advice for people that are finding themselves quite intuitive? I mean, obviously, I don't know how old you are, but when I grew up, there was no internet, there was nothing like that. So I grew up and I was the witchy one, the weird friend in a good way, etc. But obviously, there's a lot more available to people these days. But what advice would you give to someone that's intuitive, or how to find themselves or where to go with it, really?
hmm the first thing that is coming up is to just listen to whatever comes up, even if it sounds very strange or it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense to you cognitively, just explore it. And if it ends up being a door that you ultimately want to close and go in a different direction, just start following those little prompts, because that will
Mm-hmm.
help you trust yourself more. And then you'll start to be able to track
Yeah.
when and how things come through. Do you feel it in your body? Is it more a claircognizance
Yeah.
awareness where you're just getting this download of information? You can start to see what clair senses you work with. If you have all of them coming through, when do they come through? How can you help heighten them? And then also to pay attention to the signs that are all
Mm-hmm.
around, because if you think it is a sign, it is. If you're wondering, like, oh, is this a sign? It is.
Yeah.
And just let it be, but also don't put too much weight or pressure on it to mean something or to make a decision. Just allow them to be there to support you and bolster you and help you feel loved.
I mean, that's lovely. That is lovely. Do you have a moment, up until this point where that really stands out to you, like a profound moment, something that really stands out to you within this?
Hmm. Um, the what's coming into my mind is when I was 5,
Mm.
and it was my first realization that I have premonition dreams. And I had had this dream that my aunt asked me to go walk on where I grew up. We had like a downtown Broadway,
Yeah.
and there was a little kids store called G Willikers,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like so magical and everything was really big. And in my dream, I go up to the window, and the women are in the windows making the new display, and there's just this giant bear that they're putting right in the front that fills up the entire window, and then all of these other toys. And when I woke up, my aunt called and she asked me if I wanted to go for a walk on Broadway. And I go, and we're standing in front of the window, and there's the women, and they're doing this new store
Yeah.
window. And there's a giant bear that they just placed. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And I tried
Yeah.
to explain it to her, but then that's where what I had talked about with the disbelief. But
Yeah.
it really stuck with me that we are existing in something
Yeah.
that is bigger than we can really comprehend. And there are
Mm-hmm.
many timelines and many dimensions and alternate versions of what we are experiencing. And to just be content with the life that you have now,
Mm-hmm.
because you already are experiencing all the different versions of lives that you might wish you had.
Yeah.
They are happening just in another timeline. And so really let
Absolutely.
yourself sink into the one that you have now and find the beauty and find the divinity in that. Ooh, so much emotion.
No, no, but that's so interesting. And it's almost like when I'm talking to you and I ask you a question, it's almost like you just channel, the information through, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. It's just coming through so authentically and so much detail there as well, which would be so useful for people to listen to. It's so interesting. So if
Yeah.
people want to contact you, what's the name of your website?
Yeah, my business is Completely Golden, and that is kind of like the underbelly mission, I guess. I forgot to mention that earlier, but Completely Golden. So you can go to completelygolden.com, Completely Golden on Instagram, all one
Hmm.
word. Any pretty much anywhere. I don't really do Instagram too much at the moment, but I
Yeah,
might be back there. I do have a podcast that's not currently running, but I have about 20 episodes of interviews, and that's Completely Golden, the podcast.
amazing.
Um, so you can find me at all of those, Tess at completelygolden.com, if you want to email
Perfect.
me. Yeah,
Amazing. Thank you so, so much for
thank
coming
you so much.
here and, just filling us with this beautiful information. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm remembering correctly, this opportunity came to me out of nowhere. You had seen something on Facebook and you
Yeah,
reached out to me.
I
And so
did.
then again, that's my manifestation pattern. So it's just cool to see how it transpires. And
Absolutely. Yeah, you never know what's coming. You kind of just put it out there and you don't know what's coming, do you? And I have looked at your website and obviously I know that you used to have your own shop and I read up and everything on you obviously before the interview. So a very interesting story with a lot of, ups and downs and
Mhm.
obviously nutrition was a massive part of your life, wasn't it, as well?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been such a
amazing.
pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. What time is it where you are?
It is 11:35 a.m.
Amazing. Well, I hope that you have a very beautiful day.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.